Hello again, this is Tony Clarkson from the Sanctuary of Healing. And again, I'm with my very good friend, Michael G. Reccia, and colleague. And in my hands, I've got the latest and the last of the Joseph Communications through trance. It's called The Spaces Between. And The Spaces Between is an amazing book, absolutely amazing and astonishing, that describes very factually about the life that goes on around us that we may not be aware of. So I'm going to hand over to Michael now and ask him to explain this book. Michael, it's all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, Joseph handed knowledge to us in stages, as you know, and expanded on the knowledge of each book with the subsequent books. It seemed fitting to round off the communications, to round off that knowledge, with a book that examines what is actually going on around us in our daily lives, spiritually, in those spaces between, which, as Joseph explains and illustrates, are anything but the spaces between us, the space around the world, the space in the universe is actually teeming with spiritual potential and with spiritual life. The earth is teeming with spiritual potential and spiritual life. And there are aspects of spiritual life that we have disrespected and disregarded for centuries. And it's essential that we understand that this life coexists with us in order to live harmoniously on this planet. Joseph talks about and introduces us to Devas, the great architects of this world that create the landscape against which we live and have our being. He talks about elementals. He talks about demons. Do demons exist? And if they do, what are their origins? Most of the creatures that are described in legend and in myth have some basis in reality. Joseph strips away the myth, strips away the legend, and gets to that reality and explains that we are not actually the most important beings on this world, that we are equal in stature to other beings that we need to coexist with, respect, and acknowledge once again if we are to turn things round on this earth before things go too far.
There's also a section that describes how we as angelic creators actually partially create energy forms which cannot necessarily be to our advantage, and that really we should be aware of, in so much as we can then collapse them and recreate something more positive.
Yes, it's a very complex subject, which is explained in great detail in the book.
It is, yeah.
But basically, Joseph is saying that we are creators now, and we give forth, as it were, expressions of ourselves and give them sentience, and then those expressions of ourselves can come back to haunt us quite literally, and to make us ill and to make us depressed and to upset us, unless we, as you say, collapse them and put them back into the ether, as it were. It's a vast subject, but a fascinating one. It gives us far more control over our lives and the way we feel about our lives and the way we feel about others, and our connection to others, and so it's a liberating book as well.
And what came through to me was that either knowing or unknowing, we are creating by our thoughts.
Yes, we can't help but do so. We are spirits, and it's our nature to create. We exist to create, and we give form to our thoughts consciously, but for the most part, subconsciously.
Absolutely.
So we're building images of ourselves and putting them out there subconsciously all the time.
That's a huge message just on its own, isn't it? And that's just part of the book.
Yes.
But if people understood that they need to be in control of their thoughts, and that thoughts are damaging or can be damaging, it's a huge concept just on its own. And
that there are positive aspects of spiritual life out there, and there are also negative aspects of spiritual life out there. And there's a video that we have on this channel about closing the chakras, and some of the information in this book relates to that, and explains that there are creatures or beings or thought forms that can attach to us and completely change the way that we look at life.
Absolutely.
But that we can deal with those creatures. We can remove them from our auras, remove them from our lives, and get back to a harmonious state of mind again. But we have to understand that they're there. We have to understand how
Exactly.
they interact with us, what the
Exactly.
signs are,
Yeah.
and then we can deal with them.
Yeah. Michael, the spaces between.
The spaces between.
Thank you so much for talking to us about it.
Great pleasure.
And I can really recommend this book to everybody who's watching this video. It's permanently by my bedside. I learn something from it every time I read it. So we bring this video to a conclusion, and there are links below on the screen. And also, if you'd be kind enough to press the subscribe button, that helps us. And if you press the bell, you will be notified of any new videos we bring out. Thank you so much for joining us today. God bless. Goodbye.